Companies have tried various approaches to consolidation. They might have tried virtual machines. With virtual machines, you can get a number of different applications running in a single physical server. However, what we've heard from our customers, and a number of independent surveys have corroborated this, is that what you achieve is a reduction in physical sprawl, but you've still got the virtual sprawl, and the virtual sprawl is still expensive to manage. Furthermore, in each of these virtual machines, you're duplicating the overhead of the operating system and the database server for every one of the applications hosted in these independent virtual machines. Let's think about our traditional Oracle database architecture. Every time we create a database, be it a production database, a development or a test database, what do? We create a set of files. We allocate a set of memory for managing the data, and we kick off a bunch of background processes. And this is duplicated for every one of the databases that we create. So the highest degree of consolidation that we can achieve is by hosting all of these applications in a single database server. Pluggable databases are a key component of what we call Oracle multi-tenant, new with Oracle Database 12c. The pluggable databases are self-contained, fully functional Oracle databases. The revolutionary part is many of these pluggable databases can be plugged in to a single multi-tenant container database. This allows us to manage many as one, and this is what allows us to achieve a great reduction in operating expenses, because each of a number of operations are performed at the level of the multi-tenant container database. For example, one backup covers all of the pluggable databases. When we apply a patch, we apply at the multi-tenant container database level, and all of the tenants benefit. Because each application connects to a self-contained individual pluggable database, there's no need to make application changes. Furthermore, just as the individual pluggable databases can be plugged into a multi-tenant container database, they can also be unplugged and plugged into a separate, different container database. This allows us a great deal of flexibility. For example, we can perform an upgrade on a single pluggable database simply by unplugging it from one container, say at version 12.101, and plugging it into a second container database already upgraded to 12.102. With this new flexibility, we can easily move an application from one service level agreement, or SLA, to a different one. For example, if we've got an application running in a pluggable database in an environment which is backed up, let's say weekly, perhaps there are daily incremental backups, but we want to move it to a higher availability service level, we would simply unplug it from the first container database and plug it in to a container database managed at the higher SLA, for example, Oracle Real Application Clusters and Active Data Guard. Simply by unplugging and plugging this database, we've upgraded the SLA for this application, and that's really unprecedented flexibility and agility in operations we're delivering with Oracle Multi-Tenant. With Oracle Multi-Tenant, we greatly simplify the process of provisioning databases. We can create a new pluggable database very simply. It's actually a single SQL statement to create a pluggable database. And furthermore, the process of cloning a database is extremely simple. With certain file systems, Oracle's ACFS, ZFS, and NetApp, we can even do snapshot cloning, which allows us to create a cloned pluggable database in the order of seconds. With Oracle Multi-Tenant, we provide great facilities to allow for the management of the contention of resources between these different applications. One can simply define policies in terms of caps and shares that allow us to control the way, for example, CPU and Exadata I/O are allocated between these different pluggable databases hosted in the same multi-tenant container database environment. With traditional approaches to consolidation, there's typically been a trade-off between reductions in capital expense or operating expenses, and it's always come at the cost of agility. With Oracle Multi-Tenant, we allow reduction in capital expenses, reduction in operating costs, and a great increase in agility. And most importantly, you can adopt Oracle Multi-Tenant with no application changes required. Oracle Multi-Tenant is a very flexible architecture, and we see many different use cases that our customers might be able to take advantage of. A great use case for Oracle Multi-Tenant is development and testing. Many of our customers have decided to start here because the very engineers that they want to become expert in the new technology would be using it in their day-to-day in their day-to-day work. In development and testing, the requirement is typically rapid provisioning and recycling of databases, and the new capabilities of Oracle Multitenant with cloning, even snapshot cloning, make this extremely efficient. Another use case is what I call consolidation of disparate applications. In this, we simply take separate, self-contained pluggable databases, one for each application, and plug them into a single multi-tenant container database and run the whole on a consolidated server. Software as a service, or SaaS, is another good use case. In this environment, you have multiple copies of exactly the same application system used by various different tenants on the cloud. With Oracle Multitenant, you can manage all of these tenants at once, but provide the isolation and security requirements between these tenants as is required, and each individual tenant connects to the application as if it were a single isolated database. With Database as a Service, our customers are typically trying to deliver standardized services in the cloud. Their users will identify from a standard set of database sizes, provision that database, and plug it into a container database managed at the appropriate service level agreement. With Oracle Multitenant, this is extremely simple to provide. Another great use case addresses a typical problem of many independent software vendors, or ISVs. That is, how do you first install this application at the customer's site? The process is quite long-winded. They have to create a database, they have to build a schema, they have to install a load of seed data. Well, with Oracle pluggable databases, the ISV simply delivers the application as an unplugged, pluggable database, delivers it to the customer, who then simply plugs that database into a multi-tenant container database at their site, and there is the application ready for use. Oracle Database 12c is the first database designed for the cloud. With Oracle Multitenant, we can deliver all of the advantages of consolidation with none of the disadvantages that were inherent in the other approaches that have been tried. We allow great reduction in capital expenses because of a very high level of consolidation that's achieved by sharing the database overhead between multiple pluggable databases in a single multi-tenant container database. We achieve massive reductions in operating expenses because we allow many databases to be managed as one. While managing many as one, we retain granular control where appropriate, and this gives us the flexibility to operate efficiently in the cloud. Most importantly, to adopt Oracle Multitenant, no application changes are required. So with Oracle Multitenant, new in Oracle Database 12c, you can plug into the cloud.